ادوارد غبريال البشعلاني، صح؟
That's right, you can call me Ed.
إذا سألتك كيفك أنت؟
Alhamdulillah. If you were Lebanese and you got married, you were going to do the dubki. So I grew up with Feirouz. I can get sick eating الكبة. I eat so much of it. I was working at 10 selling newspapers. And then by the time I was 13 or 14, I started a shoe shine business. You know, with my father dying when I was young, and she had to raise 2 children without any money. If it wasn't for her faith, I don't know if she could have made it. So they totally clear out any arms outside of the state, south of the Litani. If they do that, I think there's going to be a lot of momentum for the United States to step up and do its part.
كيف يمكن للولايات المتحدة الأمريكية أن تكون شريكاً عادلاً للشرق الأوسط؟
I think the United States has to respect the needs of the bilateral relations they have with each country. It's not our job at ATFL to get involved in the internal politics of Lebanon.
Yes.
So we stay out of the internal politics.
ولد بنيويورك، لكن جذوره بقيت علقة بتربة جبل بيطل على البحر. هناك بهالالتباس الجميل بين البعد والقرب، بين أمريكا ولبنان، بنى ادوارد غبريال مسيرته على فكرة واحدة، إنه الجسور أقوى من الجدران. يحاول أن يصالح التاريخ مع الجغرافيا، وأنه يجعل البحر المتوسط ساحة حوار لا حافة انقسام. بكل ظهور له يبدو كأنه يقف على جسر شفاف بين عالمين، يوازن بين الخطط والمشاعر، بين ضوين، ضوء واشنطن البارد وضوء بيروت الحنون. وبس يحكي عن لبنان بيتحول صوته لنبرة حنين، كأنه بيشوفه لا كبلد سياسي مضطرب بل كقصيدة لم تكتمل، يحاول عبر مبادراته أنه يعيد كتابتها سطر سطر على طريق العدالة والدبلوماسية الهادئة. ضيف اليوم ليس مجرد سفير سابق، بل رجل صنع مسيرته على فكرة نادرة بزمن الانقسام، فكرة أنه السياسة ممكن أنه تكون فعل أخلاقي، وأنه الحوار بين الشرق والغرب لا يزال ممكن أن وجد من يصغي. رح نتحدث معه اليوم عن الرحلة بين نيويورك وبيروت والرباط، عن السياسة بوصفها فن الإصغاء، وعن الإنسان اللي ضل بقلب كل هيدا عنه، عن جذوره الراسخة بالقلب وبالأرض، وعن اللبنان العتيق جدا الساكن جواته. عن كل هذا سنتحدث. مستر إد غبريال، أهلا وسهلا فيك، رئيس مجموعة العمل الأميركية من أجل لبنان. أهلا وسهلا فيك بلبنان، ببيروت تايم، وببرنامجي In My DNA.
Thank you, Rimielle. It's good to be with you.
ادوارد غبريال البشعلاني، صح؟
And you can that's right, you can call me Ed.
اسم برنامجي In My DNA. هل منسوب الDNA الأمريكي أكبر أو الDNA اللبناني أكبر عندك؟
So my DNA, Rimielle, is all Lebanese. My DNA, scientifically, is 100% Lebanese from the north of Lebanon, according to 23andMe.
يعني DNA لبناني والكاركتر أمريكي، وين بيلتقوا وين بيفترقوا؟
Yeah, I'm 100% American. I grew up American. I never saw Lebanon until I was 40-some years old, but that DNA must have been working inside of me. But you know, I grew up like every other American boy. I was a Boy Scout. I played baseball and football. I grew up in Western New York, near Buffalo, New York. So I grew up as just an American kid.
هل بتشعر مستر آد أنه الانتماء ممكن يكون جغرافيا وروحيا بنفس الوقت لبلدين؟
Sure, I really believe that what makes my spirit, my soul, really who I am, is your roots and how you were brought up. I don't think I realized how much my Lebanese heritage affected me growing up because I was just an American kid. But I grew up a block away from the Lebanese church. I grew up in a Lebanese neighborhood. I ate as much raw kibbe as I could find. And so it was, for me, an influence on me, and especially the way my parents interacted with relatives and between the two of us, how we really got to know each other. And my friends, I went to a school with all Lebanese kids, a few Irish kids, a few Italian kids, but my Lebanese heritage was predominant. I didn't know it, but that's kind of what made me who I am. And I think the warmth of the personality that the Lebanese have has really infected all of us who are Lebanese.
خليني أقول أنه ولدت بنيويورك ومن عائلة لبنانية الأصل. كيف أثرت هالازدواجية الثقافية على رؤيتك للعالم؟
So, you know, I think when you think about what it is to be Lebanese, I think you're brought up in, I was brought up in a very religious environment, a very spiritual environment. I'm sure other nationalities were too, but mine was Lebanese. So there were characteristics, I think, that are Lebanese in you, the sense of family, a very strong family connection, the sense of giving, the sense of really helping one another. I guess it turned out to be my Lebanese heritage. And of course, growing up in America, we learn the principles of what makes America great. And no matter who you are, you can strive to be great. I grew up pretty poor, in a poor family, but I got to be a U.S. ambassador. And I had a good life. And that's only in America can you strive to be those things. And so I guess America combined with the way I was brought up really made me who I am today.
رح نحكي أكثر عن عائلتك بالحلقة، إنما لو عدت إلى طفولتك، شو اللحظة اللي شعرت فيها أنك تريد أن تكون بموقع مؤثر؟
I think it was twofold. One, when I went with my mother to Washington, D.C., I was 13, and I got exposed to the big city, to the government, to the greatness of America and all of its emblems in the city. And I told my mother, someday I want to live in Washington, D.C. The second thing that influenced my global feelings was when I was a junior in college. I went with my two buddies. We hitchhiked through Europe, and I got to see the world. It was the first time I got a passport, see other people, and begin to understand them. I think the third thing that affected me later on in life was I had the opportunity to work for America, how to disarm the Soviet highly enriched uranium, the missiles, the nuclear missiles.
Yes.
I got involved in that. We'll talk about that, I'm sure, at some point. But I think that was the third thing. When I got involved in that, my mind was made up that I could have the best impact by working with other cultures.
مستر آد، إمتى شعرت إنه بدك تعرف أكثر عن وطنك الأم، عن لبنان؟
You know, I was always curious. Growing up as Lebanese, we were a little different than everybody else. And there were a lot of Catholic religions in the town I grew up in, but ours was different. It was Maronite. And we ate differently, and you know, our parents talked differently. So there's always a curiosity about who I was. But I think I was an adult when I started to get interested in the Arab world. In 1972, when the Arab oil embargo started, we became familiar with our Arab American roots. And as I got more interested in the issues of the Middle East, I discovered a new organization called the American Task Force on Lebanon, which was being started. And I was called and asked if I wanted to join it. And I got very interested in it. And the rest is history. I got very much involved in it. By 1994, I had made my first trip.
طب أنا بس عبالي أعرف بالبيت لبنان كيف كان حاضر.
So it was very present at home. For instance, my mother, every night after work, she would be in the kitchen making homemade cheese or yogurt. I remember Lebanon, and she would. We always knew when the yogurt was ripe. She would put a big spoon in the middle. If it didn't tip over, it was nice and strong. And making the cheese, with her hands, rolling grape leaves.
هيدا عادات لبنانية.
And her girlfriends, her Lebanese girlfriends, would come to the house. They'd sit in the kitchen and roll grape leaves. So there was a lot of that history. I was an altar boy, and I had to learn how to serve the Mass in Syriac. All my friends had learned at the other churches in Latin. So in the old days, before there was vernacular in the church, you would serve Mass in the Latin rite, except at our church, St. Joseph's, which was in Syriac. So I got very familiar with the Lebanese traditions and very proud of being a Lebanese at a young age.
وكان مجتمع لبناني يعني كله حيستعيش؟
Not really. There were about 600 people, 200 families in the town that I lived in that was Lebanese. A town of about 20,000 people. It was a very small community in western New York called Olean, New York. So it wasn't a big community, but we were concentrated in a certain area around the church. So, of course, we grew up with a lot of our Lebanese friends, and so there was a lot of influence there. And another neighborhood in the same town was Italian. Another ethnic group was Polish.
هيدا وين بنيويورك تحديدا؟
Olean, New York is in western New York, south of Buffalo, New York, where Niagara Falls is, south of there, along almost near Lake Erie. And in the mountains. It was in the mountains. I'm told that the first Lebanese who came there stayed because it reminded them of Lebanon.
فينا نقول انه بيتكم كان بيت هلا خبرتنا عن الطبخ وهيك كان بيت لبناني نموذجي بالعادات بالأكل بالطقوس بالأغنيات.
Absolutely. We had a maharajan every year. We had haflis. We ate Lebanese food all the time. I used to like to scoop out the kusa for my mother when she made the kusa. My aunt was up the street. My friends and relatives were up the street. So we would play, we'd go into each other's house. One of my friends, Abdu's grandmother would make every day after school, the big Lebanese bread, I forget what you call it, the big flat bread, and she'd make it in the oven. Mar'out. And put it on the table, and we butter it and eat it every day after school. So yeah, there was that tradition. Like I said, each neighborhood probably had their own traditions, but it was very, very Lebanese. At the same time, we were involved in football, baseball, Boy Scouts, with all kinds of different ethnic friends. So yes, I knew we were Lebanese, but it wasn't exclusive. It was very American, very mixed.
نعم، كنت تحب الأكل اللبناني؟ كنت معجب بالأكل اللبناني؟
Oh my God, I love it. I mean, I can get sick eating الكبة. I eat so much of it. But yeah, I do, and I love trying new Lebanese restaurants. My friends, though, also love it. I have Irish American friends and Italian American friends, and they loved coming to our house. My mother would make Lebanese food, so yeah, I loved it.
مستر إد، أنا بعرف كمان إنه بالكنايس بيكون في كتير احتفالات فيها رقص ودبكة ومهرجانات.
I used to be the best at dubki. I used to lead the dubki, but it's old-fashioned dubki, and I noticed in today's world that it's much more sophisticated. So as I've gotten older, I'm not as good as I used to be.
طيب رح ننتقل لمحل تاني. كبرت طبعا بعدها ورحت على المغرب، سافرت على المغرب. شو اللي تعلمتوا عن العالم العربي من الداخل، وهل لمست قلب هذا العالم؟
So, I'll tell you something that surprised me because I was a new ambassador, but I could tell as soon as I landed in Morocco that it's going to fit me like a glove. I just knew it. And I think it had a lot to do with my Arabic background. There just was a lot of familiarity immediately. So for me, going to Morocco, it turned out to be the easiest job I ever had. I worked 24 hours a day, but it fit me very, very well. What I learned is something that's probably universal, but especially in the Arab world. If you want to get anything done in the Arab world, and if you really want to be influential and get people to believe in what you representing your country, would you like them to do and help you on, it starts with building trust and confidence. Mm-hmm. Let me tell you one story.
Yes.
My first meeting with the King of Morocco, at the time it was King Hassan. So I was in office as ambassador, first with King Hassan, and then he died, and then with King Mohammed. In my first meeting with King Hassan, he gave me a big long story about their most important issue regarding the Western Sahara and their dispute with Algeria. And he tried to show me that I had my work cut out for me because his population, the Moroccan people, didn't understand whether or not we supported Morocco on this issue. And I looked at him and I said, I'd like to, Your Majesty, what I'd like to do is make a deal with you. And everybody on the American side said, oh my God, what is he saying? He wants to make a deal with the king.
So this is the king.
And king said, dites-moi.
هذا هو الملك يعني.
He said, dites-moi, tell me. So I said, look, how about this? We have a new way of working. I won't say anything bad about Morocco if you see me when I need to see you on a regular basis so that we can talk together. He said, you got a deal. And that started a great relationship. And remember, that's a story about how you build trust. Mm-hmm. So that was my way of beginning that trust building exercise.
يعني مستر امباسدور، يعني بناء الثقة هو الشيء اللي تعلمته من العالم العربي.
I learned how important trust and confidence building is if you want to work with the Arab world. It was a natural instinct for me, maybe. But we don't emphasize that in the Foreign Service. Especially in those days, America was so big and powerful, it didn't seem to have time to build trust and confidence. It seemed that it wanted to move issues and get people to agree with them. I believed that it was a two-way street, and for them to come your way, you needed to listen. Listening was important in building trust and confidence. So that's what I learned to use in the Arab world.
طب لما رحت على المغرب كسفير، شو حملت معك لهونيك؟ هل شاهدت مثلا فيلم كازابلانكا لجاري جرانت and Ingrid Bergman?
I watched the classic films for sure, like Casablanca and other films that talked about Morocco. I think most importantly, I had the opportunity to go to Morocco once before I was asked to be ambassador. And that really helped me because I got to see Morocco close up as a tourist. And that helped me a great deal to understand what I was walking into and what was going to be required. So that the most important thing that helped me was that. Secondly, was reading a book by the former president of AUB, John Waterman, I think his name is. He wrote a book called Commander of the Faithful, which was at the time the most definitive story about King Hassan and how Morocco worked. So already I was being influenced by, an author from Lebanon.
شو تعلمت يعني هاي التجربة كلها مستر امباسدر؟ شو علمتك يعني؟ شو أبرز شيء عرفته عن الشرق من خلال هالتجربة؟
What I discovered about the East as ambassador was the Arab people are very proud people. They like to be treated well. They don't like to be looked down upon. And if you treat the Arab people with the respect that they deserve, they're a very easy people to find compromise with. And that was very important for me to understand.
مستر اد، برأيك هل تغير مفهوم الدبلوماسية بالقرن ال21 مقارنة مع فترة الحرب الباردة؟
Yes, I think in the Cold War, during the Cold War, there was an arrogance of power by the United States. Actually, a book was written by Senator William Fulbright, who was the chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee back in the 60s. And it was entitled Arrogance of Power. And essentially, the view was that America was so big and so powerful, they could almost dictate the terms and conditions. And it was a bipolar world at the time. You were either with us or with the Soviet Union.
Yes.
In some ways, it was simpler. Since the Cold War, and as we entered the 21st century, it became more multipolar. And we had to realize that we had to learn to listen more. We had to learn to give and take. And, America cares a great deal about multilateral issues. What do I mean by that? Big issues, peace in regions, or moving big trade deals, or climate change, things like that. But we have to go to individual countries to support us on individual issues that are of global nature. Well, they care about bilateral. They care about you helping them with their issue inside their country. So we had to learn in the 21st century that what we want really depends on how we can respectfully listen to them on what they want. And we can find compromise on.
يس. أنت اليوم مستر اد تترأس مجموعة العمل الأميركي من أجل لبنان ATFL. شو اللي حفزك للانخراط بهالعمل؟
So as I told you, back in the late 80s, I was approached that they were starting this new organization. I had discovered my Arab American roots. And a little story for you.
Yeah.
When, before the 1950s, most Lebanese were known as Syrians or Turks. They weren't known as Lebanese.
Turco.
Yeah. But then there was a big famous show on TV in the 50s with the star was Danny Thomas, who was Lebanese. He started talking about Lebanon. We became Lebanese. So we went from Turks
to
Lebanese.
No.
But then in the 70s, as I mentioned, we discovered our Arab American roots, political roots, because we saw how the Arab world was getting involved because of the Arab oil embargo. So now I'm beginning to think about the politics of the region. And when I was approached by the person who started the American Task Force on Lebanon, Peter Tanis, Peter Tanis, I got very excited about it. I had been working on Soviet issues at the same time, so international issues started to interest me. And I said, oh my God, I can work on Lebanon now through ATFL. And so I got very involved with it. And like I said to you, ATFL took its first trip to Lebanon in 1994, and that was my first visit to Lebanon.
من خلال ATFL مستر اد يعني دايما بتلتقي المسؤولين، الاشخاص اللي ممكن يساعدوا لبنان، بتعرفي كثير منهم بالخارج وعنا كمان كثير اصدقاء مشتركين. بس من ايام قليله رفقتك بزياره لقريه والديك، يعني قرية أمك وبيك. وصف لي شعورك بهالزيارة تحديدا، وكيف كيف تصف اللبناني العادي، المواطن العادي اللي بتلتقيه أو القروي اللي التقيته؟
So it's always very emotional when you go to my parents' village. My mother was born to Lebanese immigrants who came from Rimielle Nehme in 1895. And so when I went in 1994 to Lebanon, it was the first time on my mother's side in 100 years our family had been there. On my father's side, he came in 1910. My father came with his father. My grandfather's name was Hannah Gabriel Bishaleni. So they got to Ellis Island with my father, who was 10 years old, and they decided they didn't need the Bishaleni anymore, so I became Gabriel. And so it was the first time in 1994 in 90 years, 85 years, 90 years, since anybody had been to Salima from our family. So it's a very emotional time, and I love going there. As you know, the people are just marvelous. And it really brings me back to the serenity. And I can imagine my parents walking in those villages and what they saw. But I have to remind you that my mother never saw Lebanon.
Oh my God. ما زارت أبدا لبنان.
And my father never went back after 10 years old.
لو كان بدك تخبرها لوالدتك إذا كانت على قيد الحياة شيء عن قريتها شو بتقلها؟
I would tell her all the stories she told me were correct. That it's a beautiful place with beautiful snauba trees, pine trees, and olive groves, and beautiful people. And my father was very proud of Salima. He talked about it all the time. And he's very proud about being a Bishaleni. And he said, you know, our heritage goes back 500 years to one village, Salima. And he said, so you don't even have to trace your ancestry. You'll always know if you know Salima. So I would tell them what a beautiful place it is and thank them not only for what they gave me because of their roots in Hasbai and Salima, but for coming to America to give me a new life.
قبل ما نتابع مستر آد حوارنا رح نتوقف مع هالزيارة اللي عملناها مع بعض على اللي رفقناك فيها على قريتك قرية والدك وقرية والدتك ونشوف هالروبورتاج. زار السفير آد غبريال قرية أجداده حصبي المتن وصليمة. كانت الرحلة أشبه بعودة إلى البدايات. بصمت المكانين بدأ كمن يصغي إلى نفسه، إلى طفولته وصدى صوت والدته، إلى ما تبقى من الحكاية اللي بدأت هون قبل أجيال. لحظة صدق نادرة بين إنسان وأرض، وجوه مرحبة دافية أشبه بوجوه من الماضي. بحصبية تمشى بأرض امتلكها أجداده وتأمل الحجارة ولمس التراب، حمل أسماء غابت وبقيت بالذاكرة. بصليمة قرية أول مهاجر لبناني من قلب شعلاني وقف أمام بيت الجد اللي ما بقي منه سوى أطلال، كما لو أنها كانت ناطرته من زمان. فريق البرنامج رفقوا بهالزيارة اللي تركت بعيونه ضوء آخر، ضوء العودة إلى الجذور، إلى الأصل اللي ما بيمحيه الغياب. هو الدبلوماسي اللي ما فقد لغته الأولى، لغة الانتماء، لأنه السياسة بس تفقد بوصلتها لابد ما يعيدها شي من الحنين إلى البيت الأول. You see the report, so you have something to say?
Well, it was a lot of fun being with you, Rimielle, and because I got to see some parts of Hasbayel Hametan and Salima I might not have visited before. In particular, it was fun talking to you about where my father was born. You know, it's in ruins now, but you and I had a chance to see that together. And then the villagers, we got to have coffee after Mass.
And breakfast.
Breakfast.
تروقنا وانبسطنا واستقبلونا استقبال جيد جدا. Yes, we had a breakfast, we had a coffee, and they are very warm.
Very warm people. Yeah. And very loving. And my mother was, her mother was a Hashim, and her father was a Bunasar. And those are the only two names in Hasbaya.
Yes.
And then we went to Salima, and it's very interesting, Salima, which I learned with you. We met with the mayor and all the senior officials there. The mayor is Druze, American as well as Lebanese. He has two daughters in North Carolina. But he talked about how the Maronites, the Bishalanis, along with the Druze families there, have joined together and are a real model for the region. So I'd like to think that that's the reason why the issue of peace and facilitation and mediation is in my soul.
والمفارقة انه كمان عرفنا انه طبعا انا بعرف المعلومة بس كمان خبروك انه اول مغترب لبناني راح على امريكا هو أنطونيوس البشعلاني من صليمة.
That's right. I mean, he was from Salima and probably one of my relatives from way back. We're very proud to be able to say that Antoun Bishalani was the first Lebanese in America. He went to Boston. Unfortunately,
it's from your family.
He's from my family, the Bishalani, which is pretty cool.
Yes.
And he died, though, 2 years after going there from pneumonia. But there's a beautiful statue of him in the port if you want to ever view it. We're very proud of that.
مستر اد رح ننتقل لفقرة الصور اللي هيك بتلخص حياتنا أحيانا وبتصنع حياتنا ونعلق عليها مع بعض. شفنا أول صورة مستر اد، صورتك مع الرئيس جوزيف عون وتكريمك. يعني خبرنا عن هالتكريم كمان، قلدك وسام كمان.
Well, it's a big honor for me. I mean, I was shocked, surprised. I didn't know it was going to happen. And, you know, it's a big honor to have the president say that he felt as though it was a thank you to me. It's a thank you to him. And, you know, also to be honored by Joseph Aoun is an extra special gift because he's a friend and a great leader. So I'm humbled by it.
أنا عندي سؤال مستر أد، يعني كيف تنظر إلى هذا العهد؟ هل فعلا لبنان بمرحلة جديدة واعدة أو استكمال لمسار ممكن يكون انحداري على المستوى السياسي والاقتصادي؟
Lebanon and the region is entering a new phase, hopefully a very positive and new beginning. Just, you know, yesterday or the day before, they talked about ending the Gaza problem. Syria has a new life potentially. Lebanon and what it's been through in the last year is nothing short of historic. It's really reached new heights. Having said that, we have to realize that a lot more has to be done, and time is not on the side of Lebanon. You know, Syria is moving quickly to re-engineer itself. Things are changing in Palestine and with respect to Gaza. The Middle East overall is changing. Lebanon can't be left behind. In order to make sure that it remains moving forward and has the energy that it's shown in the past year, it's been remarkable. It has to continue at that speed. And I'm encouraged this week by my visits that the Lebanese officials understand that.
طب بظل المواقف الغموض بالمواقف وهيك وبعد الحرب الأخيرة كيف تنظر لمستقبل لبنان مستر آد؟
Lebanon has two paths. One path is what went through in 2006, where there was a lot of initial hope and promise that maybe a new era was coming, but it didn't get there. Or the other option is the historic nature of what's happened this past year. You've seen a maritime border agreement a couple of years ago. You've seen a ceasefire agreement. You've seen probably the most honest and competent president we've seen in a long time, a very competent prime minister, a technocratic government. You've seen historic meetings of the government on August 7th and September 5th. So there's a lot of hope there. But like I said, it has to continue at this pace. But I see great potential for it on the second option. And I believe the Lebanese people wanted to go there. And after talking to President Aoun this week, Nawaf Salam, the Prime Minister, General Heikel, and a lot of the party leaders, I think they are determined. They've made promises for full disarmament. They've made promises to take back their sovereignty and to reform, to issue reforms and change.
رغم هيدا مستر آد رغم هيدا مستر آد إسرائيل يعني ما توقفت اعتداءاتها على لبنان والناس بعدها خارج بيوتها وخارج أراضيها.
So, Lebanon has to continue to do its job. The next month or so is very important so that they totally clear out any arms outside of the state, south of the Litani. If they do that, I think there's going to be a lot of momentum for the United States to step up and do its part. The United States has offered nearly $200 million last week to support the Lebanese armed forces.
Yes.
That's a very positive sign. They like what they see. But now, if Lebanon continues on this track, completes the disarmament in the coming weeks south of the Litani, it's up to America to also ensure that Israel will live up to its part of the bargain, and that is withdrawal. Along with that will come the request for the Saudi Arabia and the other Gulf countries to have a donor conference to not only help the Lebanese armed forces, but look at reconstruction and recovery. That won't happen, of course, unless there's big progress made on reforms and on disarmament. So in the meantime, it's important for the United States to realize it's in our interest, and Lebanon should realize it's in their interest to help the people of the South with their livelihoods. So we're also looking at ways to really reach out to the people of the South to help them while this disarmament and withdrawal is going on. That has to be separate though from big multi-billion-dollar reconstruction, because that's going to take a while. The people of the South can't wait.
مستر آد بشكل عام يعني كيف يمكن للولايات المتحدة الأمريكية أن تكون شريكا عادلا للشرق الأوسط مش وصية عليه وهذا السؤال بيسأله كثيرين يعني.
I think that's a great way to put it. I think the United States has to respect the needs of the bilateral relations they have with each country. What is it that Saudi Arabia needs? What is it that Qatar expects? What is it that Lebanon would like to see? What is it that Syria is looking for? It can't be a one-way street. Lebanon's solution is not just military. It's multifaceted. And America can be a great leader in bringing the international community to really address not only their security needs, but the needs of the people and reforms and how to bring peace to the region. So America has to realize that they can't just point the finger at Lebanon. They have to realize that they're a leader in the world, and they've got to make sure other countries contribute to the well-being and stability of the region and each country in it. There are things that they need to do to help Lebanon achieve its goals, and it's in the interest of the United States to do so.
بتفتكر إنه العلاقات الأمريكية العربية بينقصها الثقة أو الخيال السياسي؟
That's a great question. I think it's trust.
Trust.
Absolutely. And there won't be any final resolution to the problems between Lebanon and Israel, Syria and Israel, the Gulf and Lebanon, etc., unless there's trust in the end. The reason why the peace accords failed between Palestine and Israel in the past was because they didn't trust one another. They got close in 2000, but the trust wasn't there to close the deal.
وعم نحكي عن ثقة متبادلة.
It's trust. First is trust, second is trust, third is trust.
رح نروح على صورة أخرى أو فيديو.
If Lebanon ever needed a friend in the United States, they could not do better than Ed Gabriel. He's loyal, dedicated, and well-connected in Washington, and he's always working for Lebanon. I can give you a small example. After the very unfortunate port explosion a few years ago, who gets the call from the State Department? Ed Gabriel. We have a plane, they say, going to Beirut next week. If you can gather some medical supplies, equipment, medicines to fill the plane, you can have it. That was the trigger that created an ATFL project that was known as the Lebanon Relief Project, that in the following 2 years delivered over $50 million worth of medicine, medical supplies, and medical equipment to Lebanon, to the exclusion of anybody else. This is the kind of thing that Ed, through his network and through his dedication to Lebanon, can deliver. He's not only loyal, dedicated, and well-connected, he delivers. Lebanon is lucky to have a friend in the United States in Ed Gabriel.
Well, those very kind comments by Ghassan Saab, who's a board member, along with his wife, Manal Saab, were very kind words. I think he gave me too much credit because that's an example of how the call may have come to me, but then I turned to the diaspora. And quite frankly, they responded, especially Manal. No. Manal jumped in and really was the organizer for all of this. It just goes to show you that we're a good conduit in Washington to bring our community together, but it's our community from every state in the nation that cares and loves Lebanon so much. A piece of Lebanon resides in every Lebanese American, and when there's a call to duty, they respond. And Ghassan and Manal are the best example of that.
أنا كمان بدي أشكر كتير منال، يعني كمان بدي أشكر أستاذ غسان صعب وزوجته منال اللي هي ساعدت بأنه تبعت لي بأقل من 24 ساعة هالفيديو. مستر آد، شو هو الدور اللي بيلعبوا ATFL بعيدا عن كمان المساعدات الإنسانية، وهو موضوع مهم وحقيقة تشكروا عليه، وخصوصا اللي عملتوه بعد انفجار مرفأ بيروت، ولكن كلوبي كيف تتأكدوا أنه صوتكم يسمع من قبل كل الأطراف اللبنانية، يعني السياسيين، المجتمع المدني، الطوائف؟ هل هناك أحيانا هيك رفض من بعض الأطراف الأخرى لتدخل منظمات مثل ال ATFL؟
Rimielle, I think you just defined who ATFL really is. ATFL is made up of Americans of Lebanese ancestry, and we care a great deal about enhancing the relationship between the United States and Lebanon, because we believe there are mutual interests and mutual values between them. So I think there's lessons that both countries can learn from each other, and the closer we bring them together, the better. So that's put us in a role of making sure that there's a voice in Washington about the interests between the United States and Lebanon. And Lebanon's a small country. It can get lost and when there's so much going on for the president and Congress with other countries. But ATFL has become a very strong voice, as you know, and we're respected by the administration and by the Congress. But also, we wouldn't be able to do our work if we couldn't come to Lebanon and have the same respect inside Lebanon so that we can listen and learn. So listening and learning from both sides, I think, helps enhance what we advocate and how we educate. But it goes two ways. Sometimes we help educate the Americans about Lebanon. Sometimes we help educate the Lebanese about American interests. And I think that's made us one of the top voices of ethnic groups in Washington. We're very proud of, it's in its 37 years now, ATFL, and it represents all the religions of Lebanon. It's not one religious group.
Yes.
And that's unique. There's never been another Lebanese organization in the United States with that kind of multi-confessional interest.
Yes, it's a sample about Lebanon. هيدا نموذج كمان عن لبنان يعني المصغر. رح نشوف الصورة الأخيرة. صورة عائلتك. عائلتك من مين مؤلفة؟
So, well, as I mentioned, my mother was born in the United States, in the small town of Olean, New York. My father came to Olean at the age of 10. He actually was a veteran of the United States Army. He was a very proud U.S. military Army man who served during World War II. Unfortunately, he died when I was very young. I was 7 years old. And my mother had to go to work full-time in a department store to raise the family. We didn't have money. But I think that made my sister and I very strong. We were the first two, my sister and I were the first two to go through high school as well as college. And my first job, I was a shoe shine boy. And I had to work when I was 10 years old, but that made me strong. And of course, we've talked about my Lebanese background, which provides the soul and the heart of who you are.
أي نوع من الأشغال مارست؟
I was working at 10 selling newspapers, and then by the time I was 13 or 14, I started a shoe shine business. And I made a lot of money for a shoe shine boy. I had my first car when I was 15 years old. And then, of course, then in college, I put myself through college. I worked construction as a laborer on road construction, which, as I look back, taught me what hard work was all about. I not only paid for my college, but I paid for my mother's mortgage of a house we bought when I was 15.
أنا بحب أعرف أكثر عن أمك. أي نوع من يعني مع أي نوع من الأمهات عشت؟
So my mother was very Lebanese, as I said, very religious. She was very religious, and it was her faith that really helped her get through life. You know, with my father dying when I was young, and she had to raise 2 children without any money. If it wasn't for her faith, I don't know if she could have made it. So a woman of faith. She was very funny, and she was always happy. Do you use the word hafli? When we had haflis, parties, or maharajans, you would see her on the table dancing.
طب بالنسبة للغة العربية الغريب إنه مستر إد محيطك كان لبناني، ليش ما تعلمت اللغة؟
Well, that's really interesting, and I'm really sorry it didn't happen. When my father died, my mother quit speaking Arabic in the house. And I come from a generation, it's changed now. People who come from Lebanon want their children to remember their Arabic. In my day, in the 50s, growing up, in the 60s, your parents wanted you to be American. And so they never really forced you to learn the language of them. And so my whole generation that grew up with me don't speak Arabic.
بس لاحظت انك يعني بتحكي كم جملة.
Yeah, it just comes naturally, some words, you know.
For example.
Inshallah, alhamdulillah. So I'll tell you a funny story. I came home one time and I said a very nasty word, a bad word in Arabic, and my mother pointed her finger and said, "Where did you learn that?" And I looked at her, I said, "Well, not in school, it was around the house."
In Arabic? The word is in Arabic?
Yeah, it was in Arabic. I won't refuse. It was very bad.
هل بتقدر تقول لي جملة كاملة باللبناني؟
I remember my mother used to say, "شو بدفنك?"
شو
بدك فيه؟
إذا سألتك كيفك أنت؟
Alhamdulillah. I remember, you know, phrases.
Good. Very good. Bravo. What about songs? Songs.
Songs? Well, you know, we grew up with, you know, weddings. We grew up, it was always, they were Lebanese weddings, by the way. If you were Lebanese and you got married, you were going to do the dubki. So I grew up with Feirouz and...
you know Feirouz?
Yeah,
تعرف
her
Feirouz.
music. I didn't know Feirouz. I don't know Feirouz. I'd love to meet her one day, but yeah, we grew up with Arabic music. But you know, my favorite is rock and roll and Motown. I'm just to tell you how American I am. I'm more of a rocker than I am
the rock and roll boy.
So that's the combination.
Yes. مستر اد، قبل ما ننتقل للفقرة الأخيرة رح نتوقف مع إطلالة خاصة على لبنان ضمن فقرة هي بيروت بولس، ونشوف هيك شو عم يعني نطل على لبنان من الجانب الآخر. بس قبل بدي أسألك سؤال، يعني بدي طل على أنت دايما بتطل على الجانب الجاف والجدي بالحياة بلبنان، هل صار لك تطل على الجانب الآخر، الرقص، الغناء، السهر بلبنان؟
I have had the chance in the last 30 years to see almost all of Lebanon. And I love the beauty. I love going out with my friends and just laughing and engaging with them. And we've gone to weddings together. And I've seen many of the sites in Lebanon. If you were to ask me, have you been to X, Y, or Z, I probably have been. But, you know, it reestablishes my roots too. All of a sudden I remember growing up and what I had in my little neighborhood in upstate New York, and it just comes back to life. And I love just sitting with my Lebanese friends outside of, you know, the officials, and joking and talking and being together. Yeah, I just love it. I love being with them.
رح نتوقف عند فقرة بيروت بولس ونرجع.
مبروك لملكة جمال لبنان لعام 2025 بيرلا حرب.
لبنان مصنع الجمال والجميلات، يثبت يوم بعد يوم على قدرته على صنع الفرح مهما تعاظمت الأمور. بحفل أنيق وبمعايير عالية تم انتخاب ملكة جمال لبنان العام 2025، ونالت اللقب الصبية بيرلا حرب بنت بلدة المعمرية بجنوب لبنان. الملكة ستمثل لبنان بالمحافل الدولية. وسط ظروف صعبة، قلق واعتداءات مستمرة، برزت إرادة التحدي عند اللبناني، إرادة حياة من نوع آخر، من خلال تنظيم حفل انتخاب ملكة جمال الجنوب للعام 2025. وتم تتويج الصبية ريم حوراني بنت جديدة مرجعيون على عرش الجمال الجنوبي، ما يثبت أيضاً أنه هالشعب ولد ليفرح وليصنع الجمال من أقصى شماله إلى أقصى جنوبه. عودة لاستديو مستر اد غبريال، بدي أسألك كمان، هل هناك تعاون بين ATFL مثلا أو بعض الأنشطة بأمريكا والجاليات بأمريكا والجاليات بدول أخرى مثل كندا وغيرها؟
You know, there has been, Rimielle, there has been, we have been approached by people from other countries, Canada, France, Australia, and other places, about how we can join with them. And what we discovered is that we're always willing to share our principles and how we operate and what we think are the keys to success. For instance, one of the keys to success for us is we think like Americans. We're not thinking like Maronites or Druze or Lebanese who come from Lebanon that want to bring their thoughts to bear. We're thinking like Americans, and that really strengthens the trust that we have in America. Similarly, when we talk to people from other countries, what we're discovering is they need their own indigenous support and interest to get things moving. We can't go up there, for instance, to Canada and start something. So they approach us, and what we're saying to them is, great, if you can get the critical mass of Lebanese and Canada together and they show an interest, we can share with you, but it has to be indigenous. You have to start it. So we look to other organizations though, like Life, you know, the Life organization, which is around the world. We work closely with them and other groups. So that's the way we look at it.
مستر اد، رح ننتقل للفقرة الأخيرة اللي هي فقرة On Fire، وعنا أسئلة هيك بدنا عليها إجابات محددة أكثر. أول سؤال، دبلوماسية القوة أو دبلوماسية الهدوء؟
Quiet diplomacy.
يعني بناء على خبرتك مستر آد بعالم الدبلوماسية، كيف تنظر اليوم إلى طريقة تعاطي وسلوك المبعوثين الأمريكيين إلى لبنان بالفترة الأخيرة واللي أثار جدل كبير؟
I think that the special envoys of President Trump, they really want to succeed for their country, and they want to also succeed for the Lebanese. And I think they've been a great attribute to moving the Lebanese-U.S. process forward.
على مستوى آخر، هل بتلاقي أنه الدبلوماسية اللبنانية عم تلعب دور يعني جدي على مستوى حل النقاط العالقة؟
I do. You wouldn't have a ceasefire. You wouldn't have the election of a president after several years of not having a president, and you wouldn't have the success of the government unless there was very good diplomacy. Having said that, it also takes American involvement and a little bit of pressure from America to keep the ball moving forward.
بالمناسبة مستر آد، يعني كيف يقدر يحافظ مستر آد غبريال على هدوءه واتزانه وسط الضجيج السياسي؟
I think there's a number of reasons. One is I'm a moderate. I don't like extremes. So I tend to always look for compromise and movement forward. I think that helps a great deal when you're talking to all sides of people. You're always looking to mediate and facilitate. I think facilitation is one of the most important keys to good diplomacy. Secondly, I believe you should not think that you're the smartest person in the room.
Mm-hmm.
If you think you're the smartest person in the room, then you got the wrong people around you. You should have smarter people around you and have good listening skills so that you can move in the right directions. And I think you can always find the right way forward when you think like that.
وأنت على مسافة واحدة من جميع الأفرقاء بلبنان.
We are friends with everybody. We don't talk to Hezbollah, but everybody else we talk to equally and we listen to equally. It's not our job at ATFL to get involved in the internal politics of Lebanon.
Yes.
So we stay out of the internal politics, but we'll meet with everybody. Some people say, why are you meeting with this guy? Why are you meeting with that guy? We meet with everyone in order to enrich our thinking, to listen, and hopefully understand better.
رح ننتقل للسؤال الثاني، لبنان وإسرائيل على طريق السلام أو على طريق الحرب مجددا؟
It depends on Lebanon and Israel. If they both want peace for the region, they can be on the path to peace. And they both have to understand it takes two to tango. And hopefully good facilitation, good leadership by America can help bridge gaps and create better understanding. And in the end, do things that develop trust.
Mm-hmm.
Because in the end, they got to trust each other because the final moments to bring people together are the hardest.
هل تؤيد فكرة أنه لبنان يجب أن يكون أكثر حيادية؟
Yes, it's a great ideal. For Lebanon to not be involved in the regions, in the internal affairs of other countries, would be very important for them. To look at themselves as the Switzerland of the Middle East would be a great goal for them.
السؤال التالي، براغماتية أم صراحة؟ So the question is
honesty. Without honesty, you can't have trust. And without trust, you can't have peace. So I believe that it's really important to have an honest relationship, because that will lead you eventually to the ultimate goals. Otherwise, it won't last.
مغمور أو عالمي مثير؟ يعني أنت بتفضل أن تكتب سيرتك تحت عنوان رجل صالح لم يسمع به كثيرون، أو شخصية عالمية مثيرة؟
Oh, humble. It's simple. Humility gets you a long way. I believe that a great deal. And I think working behind the scenes humbly, not needing the gratification for yourself, but having a bigger cause. A good man that few have heard from.
مستر اد، شو هي الفكرة اللي كل ما تقدمت فيك التجربة آمنت فيها أكثر؟
What I believe more and more on is the following. One, building trust and confidence in relationships at any level is the most important. Listening leads you to better understanding. And humility and not putting yourself first can help solve big global problems.
أخيراً، لو لم تكن سفيراً ماذا يمكن أن تكون كنت؟
A professional skier. I'm a big skier. I should have said ski bum, but a skier.
جربت تزور مناطق تزلج بلبنان بفريا؟
Never, but I go every winter to Wyoming for 6 weeks, and I work from there.
السؤال الأخير.
It's kind of humorous, but it's kind of true. It's it's something I love.
لازم أنا أعزمك، لازم أدعيك كوني
So
أنا
you
بعمل
understand.
سكيزو.
You get it. It's a different way of life too, and people in ski country are laid back, they're easygoing, they're fun, and they don't talk politics. They don't care about politics. It's a great life for them who live in Wyoming.
هيك بتشوف لبنان هيك كله حياة، كله سهر، كله فرح، كله حب.
Yeah, it takes your mind off of everything. And the people that live in Wyoming and ski just have a different outlook of life. I don't know if I could, live there year round, but I love it.
مستر اد، أخيراً إذا كان بدك توجه رسالة للجيل الجديد بالعالم العربي، لشاب بالعالم العربي، شو بتقول له؟
Create a dream. Try to work towards that dream. It won't be easy. It doesn't come to you without hard work. And if you're a good and honest person, you'll get there.
And stop war. Of course.
And I would say that's the message for the adults, not for the children. The children don't create wars. The adults do.
نعم. مستر اد غبريال، أنا سعدت إنه كنت ضيفي. شكراً لك على هالحلقة المختلفة بكل المقاييس. Thank you, Mr. Ed.
Rimielle, it's been a pleasure being with you. I've enjoyed our trip to the mountains together and having this conversation. The work you're doing is really important, and I'm glad that I was a small part of it today.
Thank you.
Thank you.